So usually I'm not doing this type of a setup, but I feel like I need to give respect where it's due because I wouldn't be talking about comics a lot of times on social media or online much as I usually do if it wasn't for Comicstorian. And I just got news about the fact that he unfortunately passed away through an accident through one of his relatives who posted on Twitter. I don't think there's not been one person on the internet within the years of knowing about comic books and YouTube especially, if not knowing about Comicstorian. My highlight for him of his work was the White Knight video from Sean Murphy's Batman White Knight. It's one of my favorite videos because it is the book that it's basically what introduced me to the White Knight story of Batman. I at one point early in my career was basically not much into getting back into the American comic scene. I was more into manga in my sense of it, heavy on the manga at one point. And it wasn't until White Knight got me back more heavy back into American comics again. And it was Comicstorian's video that really was the highlight that had edged it for me. His context, his analysis on everything that deals with the story arc and of the White Knight series, which is one of my favorite of the Batman's side story books, was a highlight for me. And I guarantee you, it does not matter what origin, where you come from, what origin you come from, what gender or what you represent, you have to have some knowledgeable history of many of his comics, his videos, of his knowledge of comics. It's right up there. The closest person that I know who is similar to that in some cases is Mom's Basement. If you have not checked out Jeff Throw's videos, when it comes to the anime perspective, I look at it the same way as Comicstorians on that when it comes to Jeff's videos. It's a huge his loss is really a big heavy very much a heavy loss to the comic book industry, especially to the comic book nerd industry, especially for us influencers or many of us who are interested in our love of explexing comics, whether it's in the adaptation market sense of it or in just the general from the comics in some cases when it comes to stories. Many of the things I feel like of my returning into DC love of DC lore in the comic book world is because of Comicstorian. I honestly have to give him props for it. While I've never acknowledged of an outside of it, or I've never really to say spoke to him or interacted with him in the sense of it, but his channel has always been one of the few that I've always read when it came to updating on many things in the comic book world that I either have not known about, that I haven't been familiar with, or some things that are in the comic book world that I have always been picky on that. I'm not going to lie to you. While I have somewhat a love for DC, there's still many things in the DC world and comic books that I still am picky about. There's some things I have a very distaste for, and there's some things that I do like in that case of it. And Marvel is also technically on that same way, but at the same time, I'm very lenient on current stuff with Marvel's sense of it, since Miles Morales and Michael Bendis is in it, involvement for Miles Morales' origin story. But again, I have to give him credit where it's due because Comicstorian has truly been one of those very many niche of comic book influencers who has spread a lot of awareness in comic books in general, from his analysis to many others in that sense of it. And I have to give him respect for what it's due. So if you have any chance, please check out his channel. Check out many of the videos he's done over the years. I highly recommend, especially if whether you're new in comic books or you want some knowledge on some analysis on many of the story arcs in many of the comic book world. I would suggest you highly check out his stuff. Many of us who are in love of comic books owe a debt of gratitude for him because some of us either have got back into comics because of what he's posted, or at some point of the fact of interest in comic books who are new into the world of it. I usually go to his channel when it comes to some of my friends who are not into comic books, who are interested to know more knowledge in some of the stories in some comic book sense of it. He's one of the few that I have. There are a few others, but he was in that list. And while I wish under circumstances this were the case of it, and you will probably see throughout all social media, many of us who are comic book fans who love comic books as much as he loves analyzing many comic book story arcs, we owe a lot to him. We really do. He's one of those big influencers out there that have made that big change, that big stamp in that situation about it. And I really do. And I could say many things about him, but there are many others on this platform and many others alone who will probably talk good things about him. There's some, like I said, it doesn't come without hits or misses from what he's done over the years, but let's not forget the fact that he has been one of the many staples in the influencer or in the internet world when it comes to talking about comic books. And he is one of those few that we do owe a lot to, because many of us probably weren't really interested or were talking about comic books as much as we do now if it wasn't for people like him. And many of us, no matter where our backgrounds and things come from, we owe that much to him. Personally, I want to send condolences to his family and his friends and many of the people who have supported him a lot of time during this unfortunate situation for him. And I hope something in the situation with their family and their friends, something in the benefit of this, if any way we can help, if any way. But I personally believe the best way to help in his honor and continue his legacy is going to his channel, checking out many of the videos he's done over the years on his channel, and showing support on that case today, because I'm pretty sure that will be the best way to keep his legacy alive in his work. So if anything, I would highly suggest you do that.